Imagine standing at 18,000 feet above sea level. The wind is razor-sharp, the oxygen is thin, and every breath feels like a struggle. For most people, this would be unbearable. But for the native populations of the Himalayas, this is just another day. While climbers and trekkers fight against altitude sickness, the Sherpas and Tibetans move effortlessly, carrying heavy loads as if gravity barely touches them. How is this possible? What makes their DNA so different, so uniquely suited for survival in a place where most would perish? Scientists have spent years unlocking this genetic mystery, and what they've found is nothing short of astonishing. Unlike low-altitude populations, Himalayan natives possess genetic adaptations that allow them to thrive where others struggle. At the core of this superhuman ability is a specific genetic mutation, EPAS1, also known as the superathlete gene. While most people respond to low oxygen by overproducing red blood cells, leading to thickened blood and serious health risks, Sherpas and Tibetans don't. Their bodies regulate oxygen differently, allowing them to perform intense physical activity at high altitudes without the strain that would cripple others. And this isn't just a slight advantage. It's an evolutionary breakthrough. But where did this come from? Researchers have traced this genetic trait back to an extinct group of ancient humans, the Denisovans. Unlike Neanderthals, Denisovans adapted to high-altitude environments thousands of years ago, and their genes live on in modern Tibetans and Sherpas. This rare genetic inheritance gives them a survival edge unmatched by any other human population on Earth. Scientists now believe that this high-altitude adaptation was so beneficial that it spread rapidly through Himalayan populations over thousands of years. Yet, despite these unique traits, there's something even more surprising about Himalayan DNA. It has remained largely unchanged for thousands of years. While history books tell us of empires rising and falling, of trade routes linking the Himalayas to distant lands, the genetics of these mountain people have stayed remarkably stable. Unlike many other populations shaped by migration and intermixing, the Himalayan DNA remains a distinct blueprint of survival. This isolation, reinforced by the towering peaks and harsh climate, has preserved their genetic legacy in a way that's rare in human history. What's even more fascinating is how this genetic adaptation isn't just a relic of the past. It holds groundbreaking potential for the future. Scientists studying these genes believe they could unlock new treatments for altitude sickness, heart disease, and even athletic performance. Some researchers even speculate that these genetic adaptations could be the key to surviving in space, where oxygen is scarce and physical endurance is crucial. Could Himalayan DNA hold the secret to human survival beyond Earth? The genetic story of the Himalayas isn't just about evolution. It's about resilience. It's about how the human body can adapt, thrive, and even outlast the forces of nature itself. The people of these mountains aren't just surviving. They are living proof of one of the most extraordinary genetic adaptations in human history. Their DNA is a blueprint of endurance, a record of survival against the odds. And as scientists continue to explore its mysteries, one thing is certain: there is still so much more to uncover. For centuries, the Himalayas have stood as an impenetrable fortress of rock and ice, towering over the rest of the world. Their jagged peaks have not only shaped the geography of the region, but have also played a defining role in the genetic makeup of the people who call these mountains home. Unlike other populations across Asia, the genetic signature of Himalayan natives tells a story of extreme isolation, selective adaptation, and an ancestry unlike any other. While most human populations have been shaped by waves of migration, conquest, and genetic mixing, the Himalayas have acted as a natural genetic barrier. The sheer altitude, extreme climate, and rugged terrain have made large-scale migration nearly impossible, resulting in an unusually stable gene pool. This genetic continuity, stretching back thousands of years, has preserved rare ancestral traits that have vanished in most other parts of the world. But here's where it gets even more fascinating. Despite their proximity to South Asia, genetic studies have revealed that Himalayan populations share a closer ancestry with East Asians, specifically ancient populations from the Yellow River and Amur River regions of China. Researchers have traced this genetic link back at least 5,100 years, long before recorded history. Early humans on the Tibetan plateau were not closely related to the populations just south of them in India, but instead had deep genetic ties to northern East Asia. This challenges long-held assumptions that the first Himalayan inhabitants might have descended from lowland South Asian populations. Instead, it appears that ancient East Asians, possibly from regions near Mongolia or northeastern China, migrated westward and became the dominant ancestral group in the high-altitude Himalayan region. But there's another twist to this genetic mystery. While Himalayan DNA largely originates from northern East Asia, there is a small but consistent presence of a genetic signature that doesn't match any known modern human population. Scientists refer to this as a ghost population, an unknown ancestral group that has contributed a distinct but unidentified genetic imprint to the Himalayan gene pool. This mysterious ancestry is deeply divergent from any modern Asian lineage, meaning it could be the remnants of an ancient population that lived in the region long before the ancestors of today's Tibetans and Sherpas arrived. Some even speculate that this genetic trace could be linked to archaic human species, possibly a branch related to Denisovans or another now-extinct hominin group. But what makes this genetic stability even more remarkable is that it has endured despite cultural and political upheavals. Empires have come and gone, trade networks have brought outsiders into the region, and yet, the genetic foundation of the Himalayan people has remained largely intact. Historical records suggest that powerful civilizations such as the Zhang Kingdom and the Tibetan Empire dominated these lands, but even their influence did not significantly alter the core genetic identity of the region's inhabitants. This genetic continuity makes the Himalayas one of the few places on Earth where we can still observe an unbroken ancestral lineage stretching back thousands of years. In a world where populations have constantly shifted and intermixed, the Himalayas remain a rare genetic time capsule. The secrets hidden within their DNA are not just a link to the past. They offer insights into how humans can adapt and endure in the most extreme environments on Earth. And perhaps, they may even hold clues to our own evolutionary future. For thousands of years, the people of the Himalayas have lived in one of the most extreme environments on Earth, towering at altitudes where oxygen levels are dangerously low. Survival here requires more than just physical endurance. It demands genetic adaptation at a level rarely seen in human history. What sets Himalayan DNA apart isn't just its ancient origins, but its remarkable ability to defy the limits of human biology. Unlike most populations that struggle at high altitudes, the natives of Tibet, Nepal, and Bhutan possess a unique set of genetic traits that allow them to thrive where others would struggle to breathe. One of the most groundbreaking discoveries in modern genetics is the presence of a high-altitude adaptation gene called EPAS1 in Himalayan populations. But what makes this gene even more extraordinary is that it doesn't come from modern humans. It's an inheritance from an ancient, extinct human species known as the Denisovans. Denisovans were an archaic human group that lived in parts of Asia over 50,000 years ago, closely related to Neanderthals but distinct from them. At some point in prehistory, their genetic material was passed down to the ancestors of today's Himalayan populations. And among all modern human groups, only Tibetans and closely related high-altitude communities carry this rare genetic gift. The EPAS1 gene, often called the superathlete gene, regulates oxygen use in the body. While lowland populations respond to high altitudes by producing excess red blood cells, which can lead to dangerous blood thickening and altitude sickness, Himalayan natives have a genetic advantage that prevents these harmful effects. Their bodies can efficiently use oxygen without overproducing red blood cells, allowing them to function normally even at extreme altitudes. But EPAS1 isn't the only adaptation at play. Another gene, EGLN1, has been found at high frequencies in Himalayan populations. This gene further enhances their ability to regulate oxygen and prevent hypoxia, the condition caused by oxygen deprivation at high elevations. The genetic adaptations don't stop there. Studies have identified modifications in genes related to blood vessel function, metabolism, and even lung capacity, all of which contribute to the ability to survive in conditions that would be fatal for most humans. What's even more fascinating is that these genetic adaptations appear to have developed over a relatively short evolutionary timescale. While most human genetic changes take tens of thousands of years to become widespread, The selection for high-altitude survival genes in Himalayan populations has occurred in just a few thousand years, a rapid evolutionary shift driven by the harsh environmental pressures of the region. These adaptations don't just make life possible at high altitudes. They also provide a unique window into human evolution. Scientists studying Himalayan genetics are uncovering clues about how our species interacts with extreme environments, how we inherit traits from ancient human species, and even how genes influence athletic performance. Some researchers believe that understanding the genetic advantages of Himalayan populations could lead to breakthroughs in treating conditions like chronic hypoxia, heart disease, and even improving endurance in athletes. In the grand scheme of human history, the Himalayas stand as a living laboratory of evolution, a place where survival has pushed human biology to its limits and beyond. The DNA of the people here is a testament to the incredible power of adaptation, a story of ancient inheritance, natural selection, and the ability of life to thrive in the harshest conditions on Earth. For centuries, the towering Himalayas have stood as a natural fortress, isolating the people who call this region home. But despite the extreme terrain and unforgiving climate, genetic evidence reveals a striking link between modern Himalayan populations and their ancestors, dating back thousands of years. Unlike many other human groups that have experienced extensive genetic mixing due to migration and conquests, Himalayan DNA has remained remarkably stable. But why? What has kept this unique genetic identity intact for millennia? The answer lies in both geography and biology. The Himalayas are not just mountains. They are some of the highest and most impenetrable peaks on Earth, stretching across Nepal, Tibet, Bhutan, and parts of India and Pakistan. This extreme landscape has acted as a natural barrier, preventing large-scale migrations and outside genetic influences. Unlike regions with open plains or coastlines that encourage movement and intermixing, the high-altitude valleys of the Himalayas have fostered genetic continuity, allowing ancestral traits to persist with minimal external influence. But isolation alone doesn't explain everything. Genetic studies have shown that Himalayan populations share a deep connection with ancient East Asian groups, particularly those from the Yellow River and Amur River regions. DNA evidence suggests that around 5,000 years ago, the ancestors of present-day Tibetans and Sherpas began settling the Tibetan Plateau and its surrounding high-altitude regions. Over time, they developed genetic adaptations that allowed them to survive in low-oxygen environments, such as the now famous EPAS1 and EGLN1 genes. These genetic traits have been preserved across generations, creating a rare example of long-term genetic stability in a world where populations are constantly changing. Even more fascinating is the discovery that ancient Himalayan populations, dating back at least 3,400 years, already carried these high-altitude adaptations. This suggests that the genetic foundation of modern Himalayan peoples was established thousands of years ago and has remained largely unchanged ever since. Unlike many other ancient human groups whose genetic legacy has been diluted over time due to migrations and interbreeding, Himalayan populations have maintained a direct link to their ancestors through genetic isolation. But that doesn't mean they have been completely cut off from the world. Historical records and archaeological findings show that the Himalayas have long been a hub for trade and cultural exchange. Silk, spices, and even religious ideas traveled along ancient trade routes connecting Tibet, India, China, and Central Asia. Yet despite this cultural connectivity, large-scale genetic mixing never took place. One reason for this could be the extreme altitude. Outsiders who attempted to settle in the region likely struggled to survive due to their lack of genetic adaptations for high-altitude living. Over generations, this created a natural selection filter, ensuring that only those with high-altitude friendly genetics could successfully pass on their DNA. This long-term genetic stability makes Himalayan DNA a valuable key to understanding human evolution. It provides a rare opportunity to study how specific genetic traits can be preserved over thousands of years, offering insights into both human migration and adaptation. Scientists are now looking at how this knowledge can be applied to modern medicine, particularly in treating conditions related to oxygen deprivation, heart disease, and altitude sickness. The Himalayas have shaped not just the landscape but also the people who live within them. Their DNA tells a story of resilience, survival, and a deep-rooted connection to their ancestors. While the rest of the world has changed dramatically due to migrations and genetic mixing, the people of the Himalayas remain one of the closest living links to their ancient past, a true testament to the power of both nature and human endurance. For thousands of years, the Himalayas have been home to a people whose genetic code holds secrets to survival at extreme altitudes. But what exactly makes their DNA so different from the rest of the world? Scientists have spent years unlocking these mysteries, and what they've found is nothing short of astonishing. Himalayan DNA isn't just unique. It's a blueprint for thriving in an environment where most humans would struggle to survive. At the heart of this uniqueness lies a rare genetic adaptation that allows Himalayan populations, including Tibetans and Sherpas, to process oxygen far more efficiently than lowland populations. The EPAS1 gene, often called the superathlete gene, is one of the most well-known discoveries. Unlike people from lower altitudes, who experience oxygen deprivation at high elevations, Tibetans and Sherpas can maintain normal oxygen levels in their blood. This is because their EPAS1 variant reduces the overproduction of red blood cells, preventing the thickening of blood, a condition that causes severe altitude sickness in others. The origin of this gene is even more shocking. It was inherited from an ancient human species, the Denisovans. This means Himalayan ancestors interbred with these archaic humans, passing down this rare survival trait through generations. But EPAS1 isn't the only genetic advantage. Another key adaptation is found in the EGLN1 gene, which plays a crucial role in regulating the body's response to low oxygen. Unlike lowland populations, Himalayan peoples have a version of EGLN1 that fine-tunes their reaction to hypoxia, preventing dangerous spikes in hemoglobin levels. This adaptation has allowed them to live and even perform intense physical labor at elevations exceeding 4,000 meters, conditions that would leave most people breathless and exhausted. However, what's even more fascinating is that these genetic traits have remained stable for thousands of years. Unlike other regions where migrations and intermixing have diluted genetic adaptations, the extreme environment of the Himalayas has preserved these traits with remarkable consistency. The people living here today share an unbroken genetic link with their ancestors from thousands of years ago, making them one of the most genetically distinct human populations on the planet. Yet, these adaptations don't just help them survive. They've shaped every aspect of their lives, from their larger lung capacity to increased nitric oxide levels that improve blood flow. These genetic advantages allow Himalayan populations to excel in high-altitude conditions. This is why Sherpas, for example, have become legendary mountaineers, capable of scaling Everest without supplemental oxygen. Their genetic makeup gives them an almost superhuman ability to function where others would fail. This unique DNA isn't just important for understanding human evolution. It has real-world applications. Scientists are studying these genetic adaptations to develop treatments for heart disease, lung disorders, and even conditions related to oxygen deprivation in medical patients. The secrets hidden in Himalayan DNA could one day help millions of people worldwide. Himalayan DNA isn't just different. It's a testament to how humans can adapt, evolve, and thrive in the harshest conditions on Earth. From their Denisovan inheritance to their finely tuned oxygen processing genes, the people of the Himalayas are living proof of nature's incredible ability to shape the human body for survival. For centuries, the Himalayas have stood as an imposing natural fortress, shielding the people who live there from outside influences. But despite trade routes and cultural exchanges, one thing has remained strikingly constant: the genetic makeup of Himalayan populations. How has their DNA stayed so stable for thousands of years, while the rest of the world's populations have mixed and evolved? The answer lies in an extraordinary combination of geography, isolation, and natural selection. Unlike most human populations that have experienced large-scale migrations and genetic blending over time, Himalayan communities have remained remarkably insular. The towering peaks and rugged terrain create natural barriers that limit movement in and out of the region. While trade routes like the Silk Road introduced goods and ideas, they didn't bring significant genetic mixing. Ancient DNA studies show that the genetic structure of Himalayan peoples today closely resembles that of their ancestors from thousands of years ago. This is extremely rare in human history. But isolation alone isn't the whole story. The extreme altitude and harsh climate of the Himalayas played a crucial role in shaping the survival of these populations. Natural selection favored genetic traits that allowed people to thrive in low-oxygen environments, and over generations, these traits became dominant. The EPAS1 and EGLN1 genes, responsible for high-altitude adaptation, became more common because individuals with these genes had a better chance of survival and passing them on to their children. This process of genetic refinement happened over thousands of years, locking in a unique genetic signature among Himalayan peoples. Another reason for this stability is cultural tradition. Many Himalayan communities have maintained strong social structures that discourage marriage outside of their ethnic groups. This has further preserved their genetic identity, ensuring that the adaptations specific to high-altitude survival remain undiluted. While other populations have mixed due to wars, migration, and globalization, Himalayan groups have upheld a genetic lineage that remains largely unchanged. What's even more fascinating is that this stability isn't just a product of the past. It continues to the present day. Despite increased connectivity, Himalayan DNA still shows far less foreign genetic influence than almost any other major population group in the world. Scientists believe that this continuity offers a rare glimpse into how ancient humans first adapted to high-altitude life, making the Himalayas a living genetic time capsule. But this genetic stability doesn't just make them unique. It also makes them invaluable to science. Researchers are studying Himalayan DNA to understand how long-term genetic consistency impacts health, disease resistance, and even longevity. Their unique adaptations could hold the key to breakthroughs in medical research, especially in treating conditions related to low oxygen levels, such as heart and lung diseases. In a world where human genetics are constantly shifting, the people of the Himalayas stand apart as a rare example of long-term genetic stability. Their DNA is not just a record of the past. It's a window into how humans can adapt, survive, and thrive in one of the most extreme environments on Earth. The Himalayas are home to some of the most extreme living conditions on Earth. Yet for thousands of years, people have not only survived but thrived at high altitudes. How is this possible? The answer lies in the incredible genetic adaptations that have shaped the DNA of Himalayan populations, making them distinct from almost every other human group in the world. One of the most remarkable genetic traits found in Himalayan people is their ability to thrive in low-oxygen environments. At elevations above 4,000 meters, oxygen levels drop significantly, making it difficult for most people to function normally. Lowland populations experience altitude sickness, fatigue, and even life-threatening conditions when exposed to such environments. But for Tibetans, Sherpas, and other Himalayan communities, living at these heights is natural. Their bodies have developed unique ways to process oxygen more efficiently, thanks to genetic mutations in the EPAS1 and EGLN1 genes. These genes help regulate oxygen levels in the blood, allowing Himalayan populations to avoid the dangerous overproduction of red blood cells that occurs in most other humans at high altitudes. What makes this adaptation even more fascinating is its origin. Scientists have discovered that the EPAS1 gene variant found in Tibetans actually comes from an ancient, extinct group of humans known as the Denisovans. These mysterious relatives of Neanderthals interbred with early humans thousands of years ago, passing on genetic traits that would later become crucial for survival in high-altitude regions. This makes Himalayan DNA not just unique, but also an incredible link to an ancient lineage that no longer exists. But high-altitude survival isn't just about oxygen efficiency. Himalayan populations have developed a range of biological adaptations that set them apart. They have larger lung capacities, increased blood vessel density, and even metabolic changes that help them generate energy more efficiently in cold environments. Unlike lowland populations, who respond to thin air by producing more hemoglobin, a short-term fix that can lead to serious health issues, Himalayan people have evolved a long-term solution that allows them to maintain normal bodily functions without the risks associated with excessive red blood cell production. Interestingly, this genetic adaptation isn't just about surviving. It's about excelling. The Sherpas, known worldwide for their mountaineering expertise, owe much of their legendary endurance to their unique genetic makeup. Studies have shown that Sherpas can use oxygen more efficiently than even the most elite lowland athletes. This genetic advantage allows them to carry heavy loads, move swiftly, and function at extreme altitudes without the same level of fatigue or risk of altitude sickness experienced by others. But while these adaptations have made life in the Himalayas possible, they also reveal something deeper about human evolution. The fact that these genetic traits have been preserved for thousands of years suggests that natural selection in extreme environments can create stable, long-lasting changes in human DNA. Unlike other populations that have adapted to new environments over time through cultural or technological advancements, Himalayan people have undergone actual biological evolution that makes them uniquely suited for life at high altitudes. What does this mean for the future? Scientists believe that studying these genetic adaptations could unlock medical breakthroughs, particularly in treating conditions related to oxygen deprivation, such as chronic lung diseases and heart conditions. Himalayan DNA is offering researchers a glimpse into how the human body can push the limits of survival, making it one of the most valuable genetic blueprints in the world. The people of the Himalayas are living proof of how extraordinary human evolution can be. Their DNA tells a story of resilience, survival, and deep-rooted connections to ancient human ancestors. In the face of one of the most extreme environments on Earth, their genetics have not only adapted but excelled, creating a biological legacy that is unlike any other. The Himalayas have long been a mystery, not just because of their breathtaking landscapes and towering peaks, but because of the people who have called these extreme altitudes home for thousands of years. Unlike any other human populations, Himalayan communities, especially Tibetans and Sherpas, possess a distinct genetic blueprint that makes their DNA truly unique. But what exactly sets them apart? And how did these extraordinary traits come to exist? One of the most striking features of Himalayan DNA is its resilience against hypoxia, the condition caused by low oxygen levels at high altitudes. At elevations exceeding 4,000 meters, where oxygen levels are 40% lower than at sea level, most people struggle to breathe, experiencing dizziness, nausea, and even life-threatening complications. Yet, Tibetans and Sherpas navigate these heights effortlessly. The secret lies in their genes, specifically a rare variant of the EPAS1 gene, which prevents their bodies from overproducing red blood cells. Unlike lowland populations, who respond to high altitudes by thickening their blood to compensate for oxygen loss, a process that can lead to dangerous complications, Himalayan people maintain normal hemoglobin levels, allowing their bodies to function efficiently in extreme conditions. What makes this genetic adaptation even more fascinating is its source. The EPAS1 gene variant found in Tibetans is not just unique. It comes from a species of ancient humans that no longer exists, the Denisovans. These mysterious relatives of Neanderthals lived tens of thousands of years ago, leaving behind little evidence of their existence except for a handful of fossils and, remarkably, their DNA. When early humans migrated out of Africa and into Asia, some of them interbred with Denisovans, acquiring genetic traits that would later prove crucial for survival in the Himalayas. Today, the descendants of these ancient interbreeding events carry a genetic legacy that directly links them to an extinct species, making Himalayan DNA a living relic of human evolution. But it's not just oxygen processing that makes Himalayan DNA unique. Studies have shown that Tibetans and Sherpas possess larger lung capacities, greater blood vessel density, and a higher metabolic rate, allowing them to generate energy more efficiently in cold, oxygen-deprived environments. Unlike lowland populations, who burn carbohydrates for energy, Himalayan people have adapted to burn fats more efficiently, a shift that helps them sustain their energy levels at high elevations. This metabolic advantage is particularly evident in Sherpas, whose legendary endurance has allowed them to become the world's most elite high-altitude climbers. Their genetic makeup enables them to carry heavy loads, navigate treacherous terrains, and withstand freezing temperatures without experiencing the same fatigue as those who are not adapted to such extreme conditions. Perhaps most astonishing is that these genetic traits have remained remarkably stable over thousands of years. Despite exposure to trade routes, cultural exchanges, and external influences, the core genetic structure of Himalayan populations has stayed largely unchanged. This suggests a strong element of natural selection, where only those with the most advantageous traits for high-altitude survival passed their genes forward. Over time, these adaptations became more refined, making modern-day Himalayan people among the most specialized human populations on the planet. What does this mean for the rest of the world? Scientists believe that studying Himalayan DNA could lead to breakthroughs in medicine, particularly in treating hypoxia-related conditions such as chronic lung diseases and heart disorders. By understanding how Tibetan and Sherpa populations regulate oxygen so efficiently, researchers may unlock new ways to help patients suffering from low oxygen conditions at sea level. Himalayan DNA could hold the key to developing life-saving treatments, proving once again that nature often provides the best solutions to our most complex challenges. The DNA of Himalayan people is more than just a genetic anomaly. It's a testament to human resilience, adaptation, and survival. It tells a story of ancient interbreeding, evolutionary refinement, and a connection to a world that no longer exists. In the face of one of the harshest environments on Earth, the people of the Himalayas have not just survived, they have thrived, carrying within them a genetic blueprint that continues to shape scientific discoveries to this day.